Welcome to this week's episode of The Soul School. Hey, Kevin, how are you today?
Hey, Laura. Good.
Well, we wanted to launch a little series around inspiration. Kevin and I are avid readers of spirituality, philosophy. I don't know. It's like one and the same with us. And we're always having these conversations about what strikes us and what's inspiring us. Sometimes it's stuff that we've been thinking about for 10, 20 years, different books, quotes, things we've come across in the world. And sometimes it's something that we just picked up this week. And so we thought, why not share those, because they mean so much to us, and share them with you. So that's what we're doing today, the first episode of it. And I am kicking it off with my absolute favorite. So much so that I actually tattooed it on my arm. So there you go.
Pulling out the big guns.
Yeah, right. I don't know, for anybody who is able, it's sitting right here. To see it. I just showed my forearm with this tattoo, and it's T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets. It's something that I was exposed to. Wow, I want to say I'm 52. I think I was in my mid 30s. I stumbled across this book on my friend's desk when I was waiting for her to shower before we were going to go out and get some drinks or something. And I flipped it open. I read a little and I got full body goosebumps. And it's been something I come back to. It's timeless. T.S. Eliot won the Nobel Prize for this piece of literature. It means a lot to me because my father had studied it. He's a doctor, but he loves poetry and he had studied it. And so we went through it in detail over months and months and months. And the thing that stuck with me, if you will, Kevin, I shall read to you.
Bring it on.
Is it's a very long poem, but it's the second page. And he says, "At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards. At the still point, there the dance is." And it goes on and on and on, but it's the part that I tattooed on myself is "at the still point of the turning world." And the reason it matters to me is it evokes this feeling of a connection to the thing that is most meaningful to me in my life, that there's a still point in the turning of the world. So both physically within myself, that there's a spot with which I might point to and say, there I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't really point to where, is what he talks about.
Yeah.
And he says, don't call it stillness or fixity, and it's neither from nor towards, but there it is, and it's a dance. And that's what I think of as the essential authentic self, right? So all the years I spent on authenticity, this quote was the guiding principle for me. You can't find it. You can't point to it. You don't know where it is. It's not somewhere, but it's also, right, not anywhere. So he toys with it with this poem, and he just does the most beautiful job. And then the part about the turning world, if you can find that still point, but don't call it fixity, it's a dance, in the turning world, right? So when for me, it's like when life gets difficult, when the world does what it does, which is often not what I want it to do. How do I find that stillness? How do I find the peacefulness, the ease, the spot where I feel connected to myself? How do I remain like a tree trunk in the storm, right? And that was kind of the intention. And so it evokes all of that feeling within myself of coming back to that sense of deep self, and the knowing that the spinning world doesn't change it, doesn't have to, they're separate, right?
Yeah.
And that matters because I think that's the key to life. If you can connect to the dance that's within, even though the world just spins and twirls and does what it does. If you can separate and stay connected to both, I think that's where you find the joy of life, the ease of
Yeah.
life, ultimately.
I love that. This is the thing I love about poetry, is how it evokes feeling, right? It doesn't seek to like rationally describe the world, but it's just like, here's the feeling of it. It's like, here's the feeling of falling in love. Here's the feeling of peace. And like, that's what it evokes in me, is it's this felt sense of like this, like the stillness of life, and like people use that metaphor of the sky and clouds so often, but it's like this emptiness that is full of everything. That's the feeling it evokes in me, is that it's both are true, that it's the still point, like you said, of the turning world. It's the fullness and the emptiness at the same time. And like, I can't even really describe it with words, but it's more like just this quiet calm in my chest when I try to like feel what he's talking about, and I notice it. And the nature of that feeling is, oh, that's happiness. It's peace. That's what he's talking about. And it's not in the future. It's not yesterday. It's like now. And it's only now. That's what I love about it. And that's why it matters so much to me, is that feeling, because we live so much projecting into the future and regretting the past, that it's all right here. It's the refuge in the middle of the chaos.
Yeah. And it's like, there's certain works where you try to paraphrase or, right. We're talking, we're sort of, working to interpret, but they worked so hard to get it into the language that best does describe it, that it's almost like, leave it alone as it was, right? Like T.S. Eliot apparently took 10 years to write this poem, and worked it and worked it and reworked it. And he even makes a joke within the poem that he's trying his best with language to speak to this thing that is fundamentally outside of language, right? And so, to your point, it's like, we can't ever really do justice to the feelings that we are experiencing as human beings, as beings in this world. So we take a stab at it. And I think this poem, this particular line for me, is the best one I've ever seen to really describe what it is that fuels me in life, right? Like, ultimately, like, I don't have a lot of interests. I just love this. And this idea of the energy of life force that wants to move through me and express out of me, that we call being authentic. Right. I've made a whole career out of it. And he's the one that I think said it the best. I've never found anything better. So much so that I'm willing to brand myself with it.
At the still point of the turning world. It's a cool tattoo too, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, hopefully for anybody listening, this helps encapsulate a little bit of what it is that I deeply, care about, and that you might check out T.S. Eliot if you're excited to read poetry. It's a beautiful, the Four Quartets. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful poem. And hopefully this invoked something within you guys to think about what it means to be both in the stillness and the dance of life, in the turning elements of the world. What does that even mean? I love it. Thanks, Kevin.
Even more. Welcome.